Hello everyone, Tom Brodie here, the Found Money Guy. Normally my videos are all about helping businesses increase their cash flow by reducing their income taxes. But today I'm going to share some learnings I've accumulated with digital calendars. Just to be clear, while I'm using Google Calendar as my demonstration tool, please understand that the features and functionality I'll demonstrate really apply to any digital calendar regardless of platform. These features can also be found in Outlook or Apple calendars. I'm using Google Calendar because that's what I use. I do not have any connection to Google. I'm not a representative of Google or getting any compensation for these comments. I'm also not a trained IT professional. I'm just like you, an everyday user. I'm here sharing some tips that work for me, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up learnings that will help you in your business and your day-to-day life. Ready? Let's get started. First, I'm going to compare and contrast the differences between a digital calendar, in this case a Google Calendar, versus a paper calendar. So the first thing we're going to talk about always is cost, right? So cost for Google Calendar right now is free. Digital calendar, when you buy them, it depends on how much you want to pay for the paper book that you're buying, but the cost factor really goes much deeper than that. In digital calendar, you enter something once and that's done, and you're done. In a paper calendar, at the end of the year, you've got to transfer all those events, activities, anniversaries, birthdays, all that stuff that happen every year into your paper calendar and then make changes. So the cost associated with a paper calendar is really all about your time. How many hours do you spend migrating events from one paper book to the other? Now, how much is your time worth? Calculate that out, and I think you'll agree with me that the cost of a digital calendar is much less than a paper calendar. Next item is mobility. Now, sure, you can take a paper calendar with you wherever you go, but that's just one other thing to take. If you've got a digital calendar, your calendar is in your phone. How many times have you left your phone behind? I would bet almost none, and it's definitely less times than you've left your paper calendar at your home, at your office, in your car, wherever it's separated from you. So here again, I'm going to give the nod to the digital calendar. The next item is event entry. Now I just mentioned before in the cost section, digital calendar, you enter something once, you can make it recurring, whether it's weekly, monthly, annually, whatever, where on a paper calendar, you've got to enter that every time it occurs in order to show up on the right square on your paper calendar. So in this category, again, I'm going to give the nod to digital calendar. Next one is shared events. On a digital calendar, it's really easy to share with a friend or colleague. You just enter their email address and they get a copy of the meeting. Even if it's recurring, it goes on their calendar. With a paper calendar, you're going to have to retype all that information that you've written down into an email to share with your colleague. It's really double work. So here again, digital calendar gets the nod. Do you see a trend starting here? The next one is navigation. Now this pretty much speaks for itself. If you've got an address in a digital calendar, you can click on that address and the Maps application will open up and show you exactly where you need to go, how long it's going to take you there, and how many miles. There's nothing like that in a paper calendar. So here again, digital calendar wins. Now, the biggest risk or disadvantage I see to paper calendars is you leaving it someplace that you didn't expect. Here's a perfect example. If you're loading in your car, you're getting all this stuff in, you may have set something, maybe your paper calendar on the top of your car, and then you back out. What happens then? If you're lucky, you remember and you stop before you drive off. But if you're unlucky, something like this happens. Now, why is there so many papers flying around? I'm not sure, but paper calendars somehow have this magical ability to attract other paper. So you've got notes, other things, printouts of events and stuff you kind of stick in your paper calendar. I've seen it happen. It used to happen to me. If you drop that thing, all those papers go flying out. So this is another built-in disadvantage of a paper calendar. And there's really two top reasons that I've encountered that I hear from people saying why they don't adopt electronic calendars. I'm just going to talk about some of those things right now. The first one is they say, I can't see enough detail in a digital calendar. While that's true maybe on your phone, when you have less screen real estate, If you're working on your calendar, your digital calendar at home, you've got a bigger monitor. Now in this case, this is a month at a glance view of my calendar that I took from my 24-inch monitor that's on my desktop. If you look at this and say, that's a lot of information, if it's too much information, well, guess what? You can click a button and then go to week at a glance. If that's still too much information, click another button and you're at day at a glance. Can you see all of the flexibility and functionality you have to kind of zoom in and zoom out of your calendar? It makes it much easier to manage. The other option, or the other pushback I hear, is people saying, well, there's not enough detail in the digital calendar. I think that's just because they've never used one and they don't understand it. Let's take a look at a week calendar, and then let's take a look at one of these entries in my weekly calendar. In this case, well, let's just pick this one right here. It's a conference call. So now I see a little bit of the detail just on the header for that event, but if I click on the event and open it, I see a lot more detail. A lot of information about how to join the conference call. Usually there's a hot link in there, it's a phone number. You've got also the details as far as if you've got an alert to kind of remind you about this call 30 minutes before. There's a lot of information there. And what this one doesn't show is there's a lot more information that wasn't added. You've got 8,100 characters in each calendar entry where you can add additional information to help keep you on track. I think that's more than enough information per calendar entry. So let's take a look at actually creating a calendar entry. So again, I'm using Google Calendar, remember? So from my Google Chrome home screen, if you will, in an internet browser, there's a couple ways to get to Google Calendar. First, go up and click on the little grid up in the upper corner. That's all of your Google apps. So you click on that, it's going to open up, show you all the Google apps that you use most frequently. And here's Google Calendar right here. Kind of looks like an icon of an old paper flip calendar. So you can click there, or if you're a frequent calendar user or frequent Google app user, all of the apps or all the websites you go to a lot are kind of summarized in the middle of the screen as your frequently used apps. So right there you see there's Google Calendar also. So either location, either way you get to Google Calendar, it will take you to the same application. So here's a week view on Google Calendar. Now to create a new entry, I've got a couple options here as well. I can click on the create button up in the upper left-hand corner, or I can actually click on the calendar at the date and time I want to select. In this case, I'm going to click on Friday, September 27th. If I click on that at about the 2:30 location, it's going to open a blank calendar entry, and guess what? It has the date and the time I clicked on. So I don't have to change that. Now I can change the duration of the meeting. Right now it's set to a default of 30 minutes. I can change that as I need to, make it longer, make it shorter, but this is the default. Also, I can select whether it is going to repeat. If this is a weekly meeting, monthly, annually, whatever, I can also go in and click on the custom, and I can make it say weekly only for a certain period of weeks or for a certain period of months. Remember, this is the way you're going to save a lot of time by setting up recurring meetings. You set it and forget it. Also, you can have multiple calendars that you put entries into. Everything doesn't have to go in one calendar. And we'll talk about multiple calendars in a second, but here are some of the calendars that I have access to that I can add to. So once I have all the information entered in, I've got my address, I've got my time and date, I can actually add guests. So if there's people that I want to invite, so it shows up on their calendar, or at least they get an email about this event, I put the name in there. Now the great thing about this, and I always say this, Google loves Google. So if you're using Google Contacts and you start typing in a name, it's going to pull the email address for that contact out of the Google Contacts app. So the more you can leverage Google applications, the easier your life's going to be. And remember, they're free. So in this case, I've added Vicky LeBeau to my guest, and I'm ready to go. I can go ahead and save that entry and move on. And you can actually see who's actually responded if you go into this event after you've created it and look, and you'll get a check mark for all the people who've actually said yes, they're coming to the meeting. Now let's talk about the multiple calendars concept a little bit. Think of multiple calendars as layers in a pizza, if you will. Each of these layers can be a separate individual calendar. You can have one for business, one for personal, one for special interests. And I'm going to use sports teams as an example because every sports team, I'll say almost every sports team, NFL, college, all those things have a calendar. You just have to find it on their website and you could subscribe to their calendar. Now, let me show you what that looks like. In the Google Calendar, your multiple calendars are highlighted here. All these calendars you can turn on or off with a simple click. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off everything except my NFL Houston Texans calendar. And this is from 2019, from last season. But the great thing is I'm going to show you everything that's in one of these calendars. So we're going to click on this date, the Houston Texans Baltimore game. If you open that, this is all the information that's there. Not only the date and time of the game, also what TV station it's going to be on and what your local affiliate channel number is. If you want to follow along online for live updates, it gives you that link. If you want to buy tickets to the game, it gives you that link. Also, if you want to get fan gear, ESPN's fan shop is shown here, as well as you can unsubscribe, you can share the calendar. All this information is things you do not have to update. It comes from the Texans. If there's a change in game time because it gets flexed, say to the NFL Sunday night game or Monday, whatever, those things are going to be updated here. You don't have to do a thing, but it's already linked to your calendar. So you'll see the updates whenever those things get changed. One other thing I want to talk about is having an address on an event. Why do you need an address? Well, if you're going to going to meetings on a recurring basis, you know how to get there, and that's not the issue. It's when you have to get to that recurring meeting from a different location. So let's just show you how this works real quick. So I've got the address here for the Holiday Inn Express Tomball. Click on that. It's going to open Google Maps and show me where this location is. Now, like I said, you've probably been to this location more than once because it's on your calendar, but what if another event or another meeting comes up immediately before this meeting? You may not know how to get there from this new meeting place. So by hitting directions, it will actually show you from where you are right now to the meeting place that you've got your recurring meeting. Now, the great thing about a Maps application like Google Maps is that you can kind of play some what if scenarios. So let's say you're looking, it's the night before, a client's called, he wants you to come visit him early first thing in the morning, and it's going to be before this meeting at the Holiday Inn Express. You can go in there and say, okay, what if I need to arrive by a certain time, like say tomorrow or a certain date in the future? You can indicate that, say I want to arrive at a different time, maybe in the morning of April 27th. It will readjust and give you the projected travel times. Now, because you're picking a time in the future, it can't give you exactly, but it's going to give you some parameters. In this case, best case, 26 minutes. Worst case is 45 minutes. And this is based on historical travel times on a Monday at 10:30 a.m. It's pretty good information to kind of help you plan your day going forward. Now, one of the things that everybody's involved in currently is Zoom video conferencing. And as great as Zoom is, sometimes you have to go into their app to create a Zoom meeting and then share that back with folks. But I'm here to show you there's an easier way. When you're in Google Calendar, you can actually download a Zoom calendar add-in to Google Calendar. Once you've done that, anytime you open a new calendar entry, it gives you the option to make it a Zoom meeting. So let's first go ahead and set up the meeting time. Let's say I'm setting up this weekly meeting. It's on April 29th, 11:45 to 1:15. But now we're in the virtual world right now, so we're going to make it a Zoom meeting. So do I have to go out to the Zoom app and reset all this, retype all this information? Not at all. All I have to do is click on this button, make it a Zoom meeting, and voila. It pulls my information from Zoom, my account, everything, and populates it right here. So I've got the ability to start adding people to this Zoom meeting. This is great for one-on-ones. Rather than each of you writing it down on your calendar, or maybe somebody getting it wrong location, wrong time, wrong day, you create the meeting, add them as a guest, and then save the meeting notice and they get a copy of it. Or because once you've hit the Zoom meeting, it populates all the information like the link, the meeting ID, and password. You could copy it out of this meeting notice and then publish it to Facebook or however else you want to share with the group that's coming. But that's an awesome way to save yourself some time, have it integrated into your calendar so you have all of the meeting information, including the Zoom link, so that when people are coming in, you've got a great way to go grab it and text it to them or however you need to share it if they have problems getting in. Now, let's talk about passwords in Zoom for a second. I know that a lot of meetings initially didn't have passwords. They added it to try to tighten up the security. The great thing about a password is if you have the link for the Zoom meeting, the password's already in there, and you may not even realize it. If you look at this long text string, look at the letters PWD. Everything after PWD equal sign, in this case, all this yellow text I've highlighted, that's the password. So that long text string, text numerical string, is the same as this 6-digit string you see below. It's just codified so that nobody else can grab it. Now, I know a lot of people actually post this meeting ID and password on Facebook or whatever, but you're really making it a little bit more difficult for people to join the meeting. If instead of just posting the meeting ID and password, if you posted this entire link, then everybody, all they'd have to do is click on that link. It'll take them into the meeting. It'll fill in the password, and that's all they have to do. It's going to make it easier for your attendees and easier for you because you won't spend as much time managing entry into the room and trying to give out passwords when people should be joining the meeting. So in conclusion, there's several reasons to switch to electronic calendar, but let's just review them really quick. So the first one, no recurring calendar purchase. Now, while that isn't a big expense, the bigger expense is your time migrating the events, birthdays, and meetings into the new paper calendar. And remember, your digital calendar is available anywhere there's internet. Even if you leave your phone behind, you can access it from anywhere. You can get on somebody else's phone, get on somebody else's computer, and get to your calendar. So forgetting your calendar will be a thing of the past, unless you forget your phone, but there again, there's options around that. It's available on any device. And this is one of the strongest advantages I can think because it's single data entry. No matter what device you entered a calendar entry on, it's going to sync. So if you entered it on your phone, it'll be there on your PC, it'll be there on your tablet within a matter of 2 minutes. You can easily share events with multiple people. So if someone says, hey, I want to do that meeting that you talked about last week, can you send me the details? All you have to do is go to your calendar, add their email address, hit send, and they get everything. So there's no more, what time is it? Which Panera Bread are we meeting at? There's none of that confusion. And the last thing, you can access organizational calendars. There are even networking groups that have their own calendar that's published on their website that you can subscribe to. So now you can have all of their meetings imported into your calendar, and whenever there's a change, you get notified that there's been a change. So I hope I've answered some questions you may have, or at least got you thinking about some things that you want to try. If you have questions, please add your questions in the comment sections below, and I'll get notified and I can respond that way. And hopefully that may even trigger some other questions that other people have by seeing your questions. So I appreciate that, and I would strongly urge you to do that. My only other comment to leave you with is pick the digital calendar of your choice. I don't care if it's Google, Outlook, Apple, pick one and commit to using it for everything. If you try to make all your business on a digital calendar but keep your personal things on a paper calendar, you're going to fail because you're going to overbook yourself or double book yourself, not realizing that you put something on one platform or the other. Use one and commit to using it for everything. It's going to make your life so much easier. Well, that's it. I appreciate you watching this. I hope you learned something, and I hope that maybe answered some questions that you thought, or maybe dispelled some myths you had about digital calendars. My name is Tom Brodie. I am the Found Money Guy. If you have any questions, please give me a call or send me an email. If you own a business that owns commercial property, there's so many ways that I can find money for you in your business. Please give me a call or send me an email, and let's get started. Thanks again.